What's up everyone, my name's PlatinumHowler, coach of your Delta Gligars. Today I'm bringing you my team builder for my semifinals match of Season 3 of the APA Academy. We're going up against Vepsis and his Helsinki Hydreigons. You can see his team over on the right side of the screen. We played Vepsis for the first time all the way back in week 3. And back then his team was actually quite a bit different. He made, I believe, 5 transactions. So the new mons that he has that he didn't have the first time we played are Bronzong is new, Type Null is new, Clefairy is new, and then 2 specific mons that make my matchup that impact this matchup significantly are Zeraora and Scrafty. The only reason he was able to pick up Zeraora is because fellow Finnish coach Slackout dropped it at the trade deadline, and Vepsis swooped in and picked it up. So, curse you, Slackout! I definitely calling you out for some sort of Finnish collusion right there. That's really not cool that I could potentially have to deal with Zeraora now in semifinals and finals if I make it through this game, although that is going to be extremely difficult given this matchup that I have on my hands. We've got a pretty similar team to the first time. We're going to start off with this Heliolisk here. It was my lead in the first game. I used it as a choice Scarfer. This time, however, I'm using it as an Assault Vest pivot. So instead of coming in against Gengar and outspeeding it and getting some damage off against it, this time I will more than likely not be outspeeding it and be able to get a slow pivot off against him. Should be able to take 2 hits of anything. I could potentially use this as a pivot into Hydreigon as well, which I'm hoping that I will outspeed that Hydreigon. The speed stat is 2 points higher from the speed stat that I ran on Heliolisk in the first game, and that was creeping a modest Hydreigon, and I'm doing the same thing here, creeping. Well, I put 2 points more in speed, so like instead of being at a speed stat of 151, I'm now at 153, just in case the Hydreigon actually runs timid and has enough speed investment to outspeed the Heliolisk that I ran in the first game, basically. So, yeah. And we have the same HP investment as the first time, and then the rest is going into special attack. We have Dry Skin this time, whereas the first game we have Solar Power. As you can see, we are not bringing Torkoal, so Dry Skin is the much better ability. His only attacking move on the Quillfish the first time around was Liquidation, so if he brings that thing again, then he'll have to have Poison Jab if he wants to be able to deal damage to this Heliolisk at all. Although I decided not to run Thunderbolt on this Heliolisk, that could potentially come back to bite me. I changed Thunderbolt to Grass Knot so that I can hit his Mamoswine. We'll see how that works out for me. It could create a scenario where I need more damage off against his Bronzong if he decides to bring Bronzong as well, because Bronzong, if it comes, is more than likely going to be Cobra Berry, so that it can just so that it doesn't die to a hit from Weavile, and then it can just body press and revenge it and stuff like that. But I don't think Quillfish will come this time just because he has Scrafty. He brought Quillfish as his Weavile answer, and then I was actually able to break through it with Mimikyu, and once that was gone, Weavile kind of just cleaned up. But that's kind of what I mean. The addition of Zeraora and Scrafty really make the matchup a lot worse because Weavile is not nearly as good, having to go up against those 2 mons now. Basically, it seems unlikely Quillfish will come when he has a Scrafty now, which is a much better response to Weavile in the first place. And it's also a Dark type, so it matches up really well against my Necrozma as well. So the Weavile, it's basically, it is the exact same spread as the first time. I put Air Balloon on it. That definitely wasn't the correct item to run on the Weavile the first time. This time we just have Life Orb. So I had Swords Dance instead of this Fake Out. I really feel like I need the double priority on Weavile to deal with Zeraora. Otherwise, I just don't have great ways of getting chip on Zeraora. So if it's at around 50%, I'm gonna be hoping that Fake Out into Ice Shard will be enough to take it out. I can knock off basically everything on his team, although Scrafty comes in 4 times, resists it, gets Intimidate off against me too, although, you know, being able to knock off its item will be helpful as well. And then we have Low Kick. Low Kick hits the Mamoswine really hard, hits the Hydreigon really hard. Yeah, just had to make sure we have something for Mamoswine, because we don't switch into Mamoswine, so we kind of need stuff on our team to be able to hit Mamoswine, basically. I certainly don't see Weavile matching its 4-kill output from the first matchup, but it's still decent against a good chunk of his team, and hopefully it can put in the work for us. Next up we have our Gmax Sandaconda. The first time we only had 2 attacking moves, being Earthquake and Fire Fang. This time we have 4 attacking moves. I believe I had Substitute and maybe it was 3 attacking moves. I don't really know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I brought the first game, but we are very offensive Sandaconda with coverage to hit everything on his team. Earthquake just for general stab, and Trapping in Gmax form. Ironhead / Max Steel Spike is purely for Mamoswine. If he is Life Orb, then it's very likely that Max Steel Spike will KO after a round of Life Orb damage. Fire Fang is basically just for Rotom-Mow. He didn't actually bring Rotom-Mow the first time, which I thought was going to be his response to Sandaconda, but it turned out to be Orbeetle instead. Yeah, so we can Fire Fang that thing if he brings it and and I predict it to come in. It's not going to be doing. It should be a 2-hit KO against like a max HP Rotom-Mow or something. And then we have Outrage. So Outrage, we're going to be able to hit the Hydreigon in his Gmax form, which could potentially be something he uses to switch into Sandaconda as well, because just like Rotom-Mow, it also has Levitate and is immune to the Gmax Sandblast. This is also basically the only defensive check that we have to Zeraora on this entire team. Zeraora just completely destroys everything else that they have. And that's really annoying because this thing is good at being an early game breaker, but if I let this thing get too weakened, then Zeraora is just going to be able to pick it off late game with a Grass Knot. That's only 80 base power against Sandaconda, by the way, and it will not work while I'm in Gmax form because it's a weight based move. But still, if I let this take too much damage, then Zeraora is just going to click buttons and destroy everything. It's just going to clean up basically just like Weavile cleaned up the first time I went up against Vepsis. So I have to play this thing very cautiously. As much as I hate to do so, I would much rather play it more aggressively, but you know, Zeraora is 100% going to come, and I'm going to have to use this to check that, or I will lose the game. Simple as that. So next up here, Wishy Washy is coming to the semifinals game. We brought it in kind of a meme game, week 9, but this time we absolutely need it to deal with the Mamoswine that we're staring down this week. So we are predominantly physically defensive. We can switch this thing in with our Air Balloon, be immune to an Earthquake. He has to go for some other attack to break it. We resist his Ice Stab if that's his move of choice to break the balloon. We did bring 2 Air Balloons against him the first time, so if he's smart, he will probably expect me to bring something else with Air Balloon and will not click Earthquake until he knows that all of the balloons are broken. That would be how I would play it, at least. You know, against a team that has no ground resist, you gotta come up with something with a balloon, you would think. So, yeah, we use this as a U-turn pivot. Scald is really good. Like the chance to burn a lot of his team is really nice here. And we can also use this as a pivot into the Scrafty, potentially, especially if our air balloon is gone, because his knockoff won't be at full power, it won't be doing too much damage to us, and we could potentially get a rest up against that thing, and we can keep this thing as healthy as possible for as long as possible, and then click Sleep Talk to hopefully roll either U-turn or Scald. Yeah, and then we can this thing could kind of be a pain. Like, he doesn't want to switch much into this. Like, Hydreigon can resist Scald and not care too much about the burn, but it doesn't want to take a U-turn and allow my Mimikyu, Weavile, or Heliolisk to get in. So yeah, this is a tricky mon for him to play around, I feel, and I think it could help us out. This is the only new mon that we're bringing in this matchup. In the first game we brought Torkoal. I just don't feel Torkoal supports the team very well this week. It doesn't match up well against his big four, being Hydreigon, Mamoswine, Zeraora, G-Max, Gengar. It's not good against those mons at all. Torkoal was definitely better in the original matchup when he still had mons like Snorlax, Orbeetle, and Cobalion. He didn't bring Cobalion, but still, I think mainly the Snorlax, the Torkoal was very good against, but he doesn't have that anymore. So this Mimikyu is suggestion by Gage that I think it could be really important in this matchup. It's not a Swords Dance Mimikyu, it's actually Trick Room. And I feel that I need some sort of speed control going up against Zeraora. Like, if I get to +2 Shadow Sneak, if that's my best way of hitting Zeraora, then that's not good. Like, I want to be able to outspeed the Zeraora and hit it with the Play Rough. Emphasis on hit it with the Play Rough. Can't miss Play Rough against Zeraora. That would be terrible. So we don't have any boosting items on boosting moves on this Mimikyu whatsoever. We just hopefully get the Trick Room up as our Disguise is broken, and then attack what's in front of us. Depending on the amount of speed investment he has on the Mamoswine, we could potentially outspeed Mamoswine. We could potentially outspeed Mamoswine outside of Trick Room, although I don't think this is going to be my primary response to Mamoswine, while Trick Room isn't up anyways. Like, I'm going to be using my other team members against it most likely, so that's kind of irrelevant. So last but not least is this Necrozma. The Necrozma set was very hard to come up with for this game, especially him having two dark types that are more than likely both going to come. It's very hard to get Necrozma to do a hell of a lot here. I still have my doubts about this being the optimal Necrozma set for this matchup. Like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to use Weavile to be the breaker and open the door for Necrozma to win late game, or vice versa. But the goal with this Necrozma set is to bait in the Scrafty as we click Swords Dance, and we can hopefully 2-hit KO the Scrafty with Brick Break with a +1 Brick Break, because he's likely going to have Intimidate and drop our attack. So after Swords Dance, we'll be at +1 instead of +2. Also, +2 Brick Break doesn't, it's not even going to KO the Hydreigon. We would need Brox to try to secure a KO on that thing, which is really frustrating, but hopefully with our Colbur Berry we can live 2 Dark Pulses from him, because we are super bulky. We don't have, we're basically entirely invested in bulk to try to take hits from him. And then we have a little bit of speed thrown in there to hopefully outspeed a non-invested Rotom-Mow or Quillfish, since they are base 86 and 85 speed respectively, so they had a pretty similar speed tier. We want to hopefully be able to outspeed those mons if they come. And yeah, that's going to be the team. Same thing I said last week. I'm not confident going into this matchup, but I'm hoping that I can at least have a good time with the game, and it ends up being a close game and not me getting absolutely destroyed. If this is the end of the road, then I'm satisfied with how far I made it this season, but obviously I would like the opportunity to play in finals. So yeah, we'll see how this game goes. It's going to be uploaded tomorrow, as always. If you enjoyed this team builder, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all of our Draft League content, and we will see you tomorrow for the semifinals battle against Vepsis.